Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video. In this video I will show you how to create an iOS plugin to integrate Google Sign-in in Godot game engine. So let's get started. So as usual, the requirements are you should have a macOS, you should have Xcode installed, and you should have Godot game engine installed. At the time of recording this video I am using Godot 4.3.0, but I don't think there will be any breaking changes as such, major breaking changes in Godot, future versions of Godot. And we will be using the Swift Godot library to create the iOS plugin. So let's get started. So firstly we'll have to create so what I have done is that I have just created one simple folder called Godot. So here you can see I have created one empty folder, and within this folder we will create our iOS library, our Godot project, and then we need to also export our Godot project to create again an iOS project out of it. So that's why I've created one simple folder called Godot. Just open Xcode, just go to file, new, and here you will have to select package. Let's just wait for this to load, and here you can select multi-platform, here you can select library, here you can click on next again, and I will name it as my library only, just for simplicity's sake, but you can name it whatever you feel like, and make sure you go inside. Now this folder doesn't have to be named Godot, just for simplicity's sake I have named it. Name it whatever you feel like, and inside that folder I will create my library. Again, do remember this, whatever name you have creating, because we will be using this name in a lot other places as well. Now I'll just click on create, so it will create it for us. Now I have created one cheat sheet for myself, so that it's very difficult for me to remember all the steps. So the first thing which we have to do is we'll have to open this particular URL. So yeah, just open this URL, and inside that we'll have to add this particular bit of code. So if you scroll down, they have given the steps. So firstly we have to add this dependency after our products, right? So just go to package.swift, and here we just have to add this particular bit of code. Now if I click on save, here you can see that it will start downloading the dependencies for us. So it has created this package.resolve automatically, and here you can see it has also downloaded all these dependencies for us automatically. We don't have to do anything. Once that is done, we also need to add this platforms of iOS version 17. So let's see where we have to add it. We have to add it after the name. In the documentation they have given macOS, but in our case it is iOS. Also the min iOS version which I found to be supported is version 17. Unfortunately I tried keeping it version 15, but I was getting a lot of errors. That's why I updated it to version 17, which I think is fine. I think currently the version of iOS is iOS 18, and in 6 months I think iOS 19 will release as well. So no big deal, I would say. Then we have to also add this type dynamic. So if I just scroll down here you can see they have given this type dynamic. So just after this library name we have to add this type dynamic. Then we also need to copy this particular bit of code, and let's see where we have to add this. So if I just scroll down, here you can see after this target name we have to add this particular bit of code. So I will just copy this and paste it over here. Okay, now I'll just improve the indentation a little, but I have copied all the necessary steps. Again go back to our cheat sheet. Now at the time of me recording this video, Swift Godot does not support Swift version 6. Like when I try to compile it, it faces a lot of issues. So I'm changing this version to 5.10, but you can just visit the Swift Godot repo to check whether it supports Swift 6.0 or not. If yes, then you don't have to change this particular version, but for now I'm just changing it to Swift 5.10. okay, so this is done as well. Now we will actually have to, so if you want to see the actual code, you can go to this particular documentation of Google Sign-in. So firstly we will have to add the Swift using Swift package manager, we will have to add this particular dependency. But if you notice, we are using this package.swift, right? So now I have one old project, like practice project, where I will go and I will just copy some things because I don't want to make any mistake. So firstly we will have to add this particular bit of code. So just go to your dependencies. I think we have to add a comma as well, right? Yeah, we have to add a comma and just add this particular bit of code. Now this URL, now again it will just do command S, it will save it, and here you can see it has downloaded all the dependencies for us. Now this URL I got it from over here. So that's what I am using it over here, and the branch is main. which I checked in the GitHub repo. So yeah, this is done. Now there is one more thing. We also need to add this product of Swift. So I'll just copy this particular bit of code, and if I go over here, we have to add this bit of code as well. Product name Google SignIn, package Google SignIn -iOS. Now when I was trying to compile my practice project, it told me this particular thing. That's why I've added it. I don't think this is present anywhere in the documentation over here. So I'll just close this file. So sorry, just a second, let me reopen it. Let me quickly check if I have missed anything. No, I think that should be it. So yeah, make sure you add this particular bit of code extra for Google SignIn iOS dependency, as well as this product name as well. Okay, so these two things are done. Then we will have to create an OAuth client ID. So for that, what you can do is you just go to Google Cloud Console and just create a new project. So select a project, click on new project. Yeah, I'll just change the project name to whatever you feel like and just click on create. Let's just wait for the project to get created. In the meantime, we also have to create our Godot project using Godot game engine, because we require the bundle identifier. So I'll quickly open Godot game engine. I'll click on create. I will navigate to the folder, Godot folder, which I have created, and here I will just create a project called my Godot project. Okay, and I'll click on create and edit. Let's just wait. Okay, now here go to project, export, click on add iOS, click on fix import, and App Store team ID you will have to enter. To get your App Store team ID, you can go to this particular URL and it will guide you how to get your App Store team ID. I will enter my App Store team ID later on, but make sure you enter your App Store team ID, otherwise you won't be able to export your project from the Godot game engine. Okay, once that is done, here we will have to add our bundle identifier. So I will just enter com dot some game dot my game. Here you should enter some proper bundle identifier, but yeah, just for now, just given that this is a practice project, I'm entering something gibberish, but you should enter a proper bundle identifier. Typically it is com dot company name dot your app name. So yeah, just copy this. Then again I'll go back to our project. Now I will select our project which has been created on Google Cloud Console. Then go to API and services, enable API and services, and here you can click on enable API and services. Oh, not enable. I'll just go back. Here we'll have to click, not this, sorry, you will have to go to credentials, and here we will have to click on create credentials, OAuth client ID, and again then here we will have to just click on configure consent screen. Let's just wait for this, and then here you just have to click on external, click on create, give your app some name. I will just give it as my app. Select your support email ID. Then here you will have to enter your email ID again. So I'll just enter my email ID. Okay, and then I'll just click on save and continue. Then I will just click on save and continue again. Here it mentions that add test users. Given that we are not deploying it to Google Apple App Store, you can add some test users of which has their gmail.id.com, but I noticed that even if I don't add some test users, it still works. So I'm not adding test users, but in case if you face issues in your output, make sure you add some test users only when you are trying to run the debug IPA, not the release IPA. Once you have deployed it to App Store, you can remove your test users, but I'm not really adding it. I'll just click on save and continue again, and I'll click on back to dashboard. And okay, now if you are deploying it to Apple App Store, you should click on publish app again, and here again I'll click on credentials, create credentials, OAuth client ID, select iOS application. Here it will require you the bundle identifier. So if you remember, I forgot what my bundle identifier was. So this was my bundle identifier. So I'll just copy this and I'll come over here, I'll paste it over here. Now you should also enter your App Store team ID and team ID, App Store ID and team ID if you are deploying it to Apple App Store. I'm not deploying it, so I won't enter it. I'll just click on create. Now here it has given us the client ID, so this is important. I will just copy this. We will be using this later on, so I'll just paste it over here for now. You can paste it wherever you feel like, but just copy this client ID. Okay, then click on OK. Then what I will do is I'll just again open my practice project, so you don't get confused. I just need to copy some code, so I will just open my library.swift over here, and I will just copy all this code and then I'll explain it to you. Okay, so what you will have to do is just go to Xcode. Here you will have to go to my library. Here you will have to go to my library.swift, and we have to paste. So firstly I have imported UI kit. I have also imported Swift Godot, and I have also imported Google SignIn. Next, this is boilerplate code which you have to write. Again, this should be your own library name. Now this is the documentation link. If you want, you can go through this. And here I have created a class which extends from ref counted. Here I have created a signal called output. Now you can name it whatever you feel like, but I am just sending string data. So suppose once the user has logged in successfully, I am taking the email, username, ID all together, converting it to a proper string and sending it back to Godot side. But you can send whatever data you feel like, change the data type to whatever you feel like. Be careful, like I don't think all data types are supported, that's why I'm just using string and concatenating everything to one string. But yeah, it's up to you. Then here I have created one method called SignIn. So again, now if you want, you can just go through this documentation. I will just copy this as well, okay, over here in a new tab, because we will be needing this later on. Yeah, this I'm not doing this backend authentication now, just to show it to you from where I have copied all this code. So it is from over here. I have not copied this code because we don't have this app. Typically native iOS application, you have something called app delegate file. We don't have this, so I have not copied this. I'm not really sure. I think this is for deep linking. I'm not really sure, so I have not copied this. Rest everything which you see over here, I have copied it from the documentation itself. Okay, so if you are curious, you can go through the documentation. Coming back to our code, so here I have our sign-in method. So here I'm getting hold of our parent root view controller. Then again, I have just copied this from the documentation. So to sign in, you have to just do gid signin.shared instance.signin, pass our root view controller, and here we get our result as well as our error. And in case if there is any error, then I'm just emitting a signal saying error sign in. Okay, and again I'm using the same signal for error as well. If you want, you can create a different signal. And if the user is present properly, then I'm just extracting the email name as well as user ID, and then I'm just sending it back to Godot side. Okay, then this is for sign out. So if you want to sign out, just do gid signin.shared instance.sign out. Now this another method I have created just to check whether the user is already signed in. So if the user has already signed in, I can immediately call this method inside onReady of our Godot GD script, so that I don't need to show the login screen back to the user again and again. So yeah, that's what, again, this code has been copied from documentation. So gid signin.shared instance restore previous sign in, and if the error is not, okay, I don't need this. If error not equal to nil, user equal to nil, then emit a signal that user did not sign in. Otherwise, here I'm getting all the user credentials and sending it back to you. So yeah, it's up to you how you want to manage this. But yeah, I think that's it from this particular file. Next, we will have to come over here. We'll have to go to this particular URL and open this, because we require this build.sh file. Now what I will do is I will just open another instance of VS Code, because creating this build.sh file via Xcode, I always mess it up. That's why what I will do is I will just open this entire Godot folder inside VS Code. You don't have to use VS Code, but yeah, I always mess it up while creating via Xcode. So that's why what I will do, I will just go to my library. I will create a file called build.sh, okay, and not sh, and I will just copy paste all this code. Now huge shout out to this guy as well, because he has helped me a lot. The guy name is Stephen. So yeah, I'll just copy all this code and paste it over here. So again, I just copied all the code from the GitHub repo. Only thing which you have to do is here it should be your own library name. So my library name was just my library, and there is one more thing which we need to add. So if I go back to my cheat sheet, we need to add this particular thing as well. Now I don't know why we need to add this, but when I was trying to compile it, I was getting a lot of errors. That's why Stefan told me to add this. That's why I'm adding it. Again, I'm not really an expert on this. So yeah, make sure you change this to your own schema name, and this, make sure you add this as well. Once that is done, just open your terminal. So we'll need to compile this. So I will just go to my library, Godot, and here I am inside my library. Okay, I'll just clear everything out. Now again, I'll just go back to my cheat sheet, and here you can see firstly we'll have to run this particular command. I'll paste it over here, and then we have to run this particular command. Now I'm not deploying my app to Apple App Store, so I'm just generating the debug thing. If you want, you can replace this debug with release as well if you're planning to deploy it to Apple App Store. So I'm not doing that, so I will just run this. Now this will take little bit of time, so let it do its thing. In the meantime, we can come back to our Godot project, click on 2D scene, and here I will add two buttons, one for sign in and one for sign out. So I will just create these two buttons. Okay, and I'll just duplicate this. So this is sign out, and I will create one label just to show it to you that all the data which we are sending from Godot side is present over here. I'll quickly save this. I will give my first button name sign in, and second button name sign out. I'll save it again, and I will just select all three of this. I'll go to theme overrides. I'll go to font size, and I will just change the font size to 40. I'll again save this. I will just run this application so that my current scene is selected. So I'll just run this once. Okay, then I will just attach one script to this. I'll click this. Now I will just what I will do is I will just add this button press signal as well. So pressed over here, and again I'll come over here and I'll add over here as well. So both of our buttons are pressed, and we also need to create this particular label. Okay, so something like this. Now what I'll do is I'll just go back to my old sample project, because again I need to copy some code. So I'll first copy the code and then I'll explain it to you. So firstly, yeah, I'll explain side by side, it's no big deal. So firstly, we'll have to create a variable just to store the library reference. So that's what I'm doing it over here. Once we do that, inside the onReady, we are just initializing that particular library. So if you see, I will just paste it over here, and here you can see that so this should be your own library name, as well as this thing should be your own library name. So here we are initializing our library, and then we just do my library.connect. This is my signal name, so that's what I'm using, and whenever the signal is called, this particular method will get called. So we'll have to create this particular method. So here you can see I have created this method, which I will just copy paste. So here you can see I've just created this method, and whenever we get data, we just update our label text. And here I have inside onReady, I'm also calling this method which we had created on Godot side, if you remember this particular method. Also, whatever methods you are going to call from Godot side has to be marked with this annotation @callable. Okay, so this will help us to know whether the user has already signed in or not. And on the button press, so on the first button press, we can just call in the sign in method. So over here I can do like this, and on the second button press I can do something like this. Okay, so these two things are done. So let's see my cheat sheet. So the next thing which we have to do is we'll have to create a bin folder inside our Godot project. Now I will do it via VS Code itself. If you want, you can do it from Godot game engine as well. So here I will create, inside of a Godot project, I will create a folder called bin, and inside bin we have to create a folder, a file name. my library.gd extension. Again, it should be your own library name, so I'll just paste it over here. Once that is done, I will just copy this bit of code and I'll paste it over here. So, and I'll save it as well. Now if you see our Godot project, here you can see I'm not able to open this .gd extension. There might be some way around with it. That's why I've created this file via VS Code. But yeah, use whatever you feel like. Here you can see that I have created the debug, compiled our library for debug mode. That's why I'm using debug over here as well as over here. If you're using release, make sure you replace it with release. Now here if you see our this particular thing has also been successful. So what we'll have to do is we just have to go to our library over here, and here you inside bin go to iOS. Here you should see these two files being generated, folders. So we'll have to copy these two, and here we will just go back to our Godot project, go to bin, and we'll paste it over here. Okay, so this is done as well. Again, I'll just go back to my cheat sheet. Now I will just enter my App Store team ID and I will export my project. Okay, so once I have entered my App Store team ID, next what I will do is I will just go inside our main Godot folder, and I will just create a folder called iOS. You can name it whatever you feel like. I will export our project from Godot inside this iOS folder because it has a lot of files. That's why I have created it. I'll just go to project, export, and here I will just click on export project, and here I will just go to iOS and I will click on save. Now this will export our project, so this will take little bit of time. So once this is done, I'll come back. Okay, so as you can see, our project has been exported fine. And once our project has been exported, you just go to your iOS folder and just double click on this .xcode proj file. It will open it inside Xcode, and then what we will have to do is we'll have to go to our supporting files, and this particular file which you see, just right click on it and click as open as source code. So you will see something like this. Okay, now I will just again indent it properly, so something like this, and I will just move this bottom. I'll just remove this unnecessary space as well. So yeah, it will look something like this. Now what we will have to do is if you see, we had copied this client ID, right, and we had also copied this code from the documentation of Google SignIn. So we'll just have to copy this and paste it over here. Mind you, every time you export your project from Godot as an iOS project, this particular settings will get vanish, or it will be destroyed, whatever I'm not finding the right word. It will not persist. So you will have to do this every single time. I don't know of any other better way. I don't think so we can configure it directly inside our Godot project. So if you have a better way, do let me know in the comments. But here firstly we will have to replace this with our iOS client ID. So I will just copy this particular thing and I'll paste it over here. Then we also need to paste it over here as well, but we have to reverse it. That means, so I will just do com dot this, then dot apps dot, and here I will also copy this particular thing and I will just remove this and paste it over here. Then as you can see, it is the same as what we have over here. It's just that it has been reversed over here. So this is the important part. So yeah, that should be it. Now I will just run my application on a real device and show you guys the output. You don't run it on a simulator, it will not work for you. It throws a lot of errors because of Vulkan and all that stuff, which I don't understand. So I'll just run it on a real device and come back. Okay guys, so here is the output. I have to run it again. I don't know, every time I have to run it twice. Sorry, the output is blurred because I don't want to reveal my email ID. So yeah, so I will just wait for this to load. Again, I am running this in debug mode, that's why the performance is little off as well. Now at the very start, my label says that the user did not sign in, which is coming from our library because the user has not signed in. Again, sorry, the output is blurred, video is completely blurred. So I'll just click on sign in now. and it is asking me my Godot projects want to use Google sign in to sign in. I'll just click on continue, and the user should have signed in with Google, otherwise he will have to sign in once. But I already have one Google sign in account, so I'll just select that and I'll just wait. Then I'll just click on continue again, and I'm able to see user ID, the name as well as email which I have sent off previously. Now if I want, I can just completely close this app. I will reopen the app, and it should immediately show me whatever details I had signed in previously. So yeah, I'm able to see all the details. Now I will click on sign out, and now if I just completely close the app and reopen it again, now my label will show user did not sign in. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.